Some humiliations are designed to break you in front of everyone you've ever known, and Paisley had perfected the art. The restaurant gleamed with the kind of elegance that made Ashley Crudel feel like an imposter. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting fractured light across tables draped in ivory linen. Around her, the city's elite moved through their evening rituals. Quiet laughter, hushed conversations, the soft clink of wine glasses. Ashley sat at the family table, her spine rigid, hands folded in her lap. She'd learned long ago to make herself small at these gatherings. The family dinner had been Delphine's idea, because Ashley had stopped thinking of her as anything warmer than that years ago. To family, Delphine raised her glass, her smile tight and performative. The others echoed the sentiment. Ashley lifted her glass a fraction too late, the gesture hollow. Paisley sat across from her, draped in designer silk that probably cost more than Ashley's monthly rent. Her sister, adopted sister, as Paisley never let her forget, wore her cruelty like jewelry. Tonight, though, something in Paisley's expression went beyond the usual disdain. There was anticipation there, a predator's patience. The meal progressed through courses Ashley could barely taste. Conversation flowed around her, family gossip, social climbing, who'd been seen with whom. Ashley contributed nothing, and no one expected her to. "Ashley, darling," Delphine's voice cut through the ambient noise. "We were just discussing your living situation. Still in that little apartment?" The table quieted. Everyone knew what was coming. These dinners weren't about connection. They were about reinforcement, about making sure Ashley understood her place. "Yes," Ashley answered simply. "It suits me fine." "Suits you," Paisley repeated, her laugh like breaking glass. "Of course it does. You've always been so content with less." Ashley's jaw tightened. "Don't engage. Don't give them the reaction they want." Paisley leaned forward, eyes glittering. "Actually, I'm glad we're all here. There's something we need to address." The words landed like stones in still water. Ashley's stomach dropped. "Paisley?" Delphine's tone held a note of warning, but it was performative. She wanted this too. "No, mother, it needs to be said." Paisley stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the polished floor. The sound drew attention from neighboring tables. "Exactly as intended. We've been too kind for too long. Too willing to pretend everything's fine when it's not." Ashley's heart began to race. "Paisley, please, please what?" Paisley's voice rose, cutting through the restaurant's refined atmosphere. "Please keep quiet about how you've been taking advantage of this family your entire life. Please pretend you're actually one of us when everyone knows you're not." Neighboring tables had gone silent. Diners turned to watch. Ashley felt heat flood her face. "I never asked." "You never had to ask, did you? That's the problem. You take our name, our reputation, our resources, and give nothing back. You're a charity case we never should have taken on." "That's enough," Ashley said, finding her voice despite the trembling in her hands. She started to stand, desperate to escape. "Actually, it's not enough." Paisley reached into her purse and withdrew a leather folder, slapping it onto the table. "This is the bill from tonight's dinner. Your portion comes to $5,000. The number hung in the air like an executioner's blade. Ashley stared at the folder, unable to process what was happening. $5,000. She barely had enough to cover her rent. "What are you doing?" Ashley's voice cracked. "Setting boundaries. You want to sit at this table? Then pay your way like the rest of us. Unless you can't, unless you're exactly what I've always said you were. A burden we've carried out of misguided pity." The restaurant felt like it was tilting. "I don't have—" "Of course you don't." Paisley's satisfaction was palpable. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to take this bill, and you're going to figure it out. Go find another table, Ashley. You don't belong at ours." The words detonated in Ashley's chest. Everyone was watching. Everyone saw her humiliation painted across the expensive table setting. Ashley's hands shook as she reached for the folder. $5,000. She had maybe 200 rupees in her account. There was nothing left. There was never anything left. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not in front of Paisley, who would drink her tears like wine. Not in front of these strangers who would remember this as dinner theater. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady. Every eye tracked her movement. She could feel their judgment, their pity, their uncomfortable relief that they weren't the one being destroyed tonight. "You're making a mistake," Ashley said quietly, looking directly at Paisley. "Not about me, about yourself. This is who you are, and one day you'll have to live with that." Paisley's smile never wavered. "I'll sleep just fine, sweetheart, will you?" Ashley turned and walked toward the exit, spine straight, despite everything inside her crumbling. Each step felt impossible, but she took them anyway, refusing to run, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her completely break. She didn't see the man at the corner table, didn't notice how his attention had shifted completely from his documents to the scene unfolding. Tully Shepard had been reviewing contracts when Paisley's voice first rose. Something about the woman's response, quiet, controlled, despite obvious distress, pulled his attention like a hook. He watched the entire scene with growing fascination and fury. The sister's performance, the mother's silent approval, the cruel theater. But mostly, he watched the woman at the center, the way she held herself together when everything was designed to shatter her. The dignity in her silence. The strength it took to stand and walk away rather than collapse. Most people would have caused a scene, would have screamed or cried or fought back. She simply stood, delivered one quiet truth, and walked away with her head impossibly high. Tully leaned forward, meal forgotten, watching her navigate between tables toward the exit. There was something about her, something in the set of her shoulders, the controlled breathing, the way she clutched that folder, that arrested him completely. He'd spent his life reading people, identifying potential where others saw nothing, and watching this woman walk through her own public humiliation with more grace than most people demonstrated in triumph, told him everything he needed to know. She was extraordinary, and she had no idea. As Ashley pushed through the restaurant's doors and disappeared into the night, Tully made a decision that would change both their lives forever. The family at the center table was already returning to their meal, the destruction they'd caused already forgotten. But Tully wouldn't forget, couldn't forget. He'd just witnessed something rare, someone with enough internal strength to maintain dignity in the face of deliberate cruelty. Tully left cash on his table and headed for the exit. Outside, the night air was cold and sharp. He stepped onto the sidewalk, eyes scanning the street. He found her standing beside the building, one hand pressed against the brick wall, as if it was the only thing keeping her upright. The folder lay at her feet where she'd dropped it. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Tully approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. When he was close enough to speak, he said simply, "Excuse me." Ashley's head snapped up, face streaked with tears. Her eyes were wide with humiliation, fury, and exhaustion, the look of someone who'd been fighting alone for too long. And in that moment, seeing her completely unguarded, Tully Shepard knew with absolute certainty that his life had just irrevocably changed. Chapter 2. The Stranger's Kindness Rescue. Never looks like you imagine. Sometimes it wears a tailored suit and asks nothing in return. Ashley couldn't breathe properly. Each inhale felt jagged, catching on the sobs she was trying to suppress. The cold brick wall against her palm was the only solid thing in a world that had just shattered into 1,000 cutting pieces. $5,000. The number kept echoing in her head like a death sentence. She had nothing, less than nothing, and everyone had seen it. The voice that interrupted her spiral was unexpected, smooth, confident, but surprisingly gentle. "Excuse me." She looked up sharply, defensive walls slamming into place despite her devastation. The man standing a respectful distance away didn't look like the type who usually noticed broken women crying outside restaurants. His suit was clearly expensive but worn with the kind of ease that suggested he didn't think about it. His face was striking, strong features, intelligent eyes that were currently watching her with something that looked unsettlingly like understanding. "I'm sorry," Ashley said quickly, swiping at her tears with the back of her hand. "I'm fine. I was just leaving." "You're not fine," the man said simply. It wasn't accusatory or pitying, just a statement of obvious fact. "And I'm not here to make it worse." I was inside. I saw what happened. Fresh humiliation flooded through Ashley's chest, hot and suffocating. He'd witnessed it. A complete stranger had watched her public destruction. "Great," she said bitterly. "Did you enjoy the show?" "No," he replied immediately, his voice hardening. "I found it disgusting. The cruelty of it. The calculated nature. The way they turned your pain into entertainment." He took a step closer, and Ashley noticed he was carrying the leather folder, the one she'd dropped. "This isn't yours to carry." Ashley stared at the folder like it was a snake. "That's $5,000 I don't have. That's my portion of a dinner I didn't even want to attend. So yes, it's mine to carry, because apparently that's the price of trying to have a family." The man was quiet for a moment, studying her with an intensity that should have felt invasive, but somehow didn't. "What's your name?" The question caught her off guard. "Why?" "Because I'd like to know who I'm helping." "I don't need your help," Ashley said automatically, even though she absolutely did. Pride was all she had left, and she clung to it like a lifeline. "I can handle this myself." "Can you?" His tone wasn't mocking, it was genuinely asking. "Do you have $5,000 in your pocket right now?" Ashley's silence was answer enough. "That's what I thought." He turned and started walking back toward the restaurant entrance. "Wait here! Where are you going?" Ashley called after him, panic rising. She didn't want him going back inside, didn't want him confronting her family, didn't want this situation to become even more complicated than it already was. "To handle this," he said simply, disappearing through the doors. Before she could stop him, Ashley stood frozen, torn between running away and waiting to see what happened. Her feet chose to stay planted, whether from shock or exhaustion or some desperate hope she didn't want to examine too closely. Through the restaurant's windows, she could see his silhouette approaching the host stand, speaking briefly, then moving toward where the manager stood, overseeing the dining room. The exchange was quick, professional. She couldn't hear the words, but she saw the manager's expression shift from mild concern to attentive respect. Saw the stranger hand over what looked like a credit card. Saw the manager nod enthusiastically, practically bowing as he processed whatever was happening. The man returned within minutes, his expression neutral, but his eyes holding something warmer. "It's handled." Ashley's brain struggled to process the words. "What do you mean, handled?" "I mean the bill is paid in full. You're free to go." The world tilted again, but differently this time. You paid $5,000. For a stranger? Why would you do that?" He smiled slightly, and it transformed his face from striking to genuinely handsome. "Because I could. Because it was wrong. Because watching you walk away from that table with your head up, despite everything they were trying to do to you, told me you're someone worth knowing. And because $5,000 means nothing to me, but clearly means everything to you." Ashley felt tears threatening again, but for an entirely different reason. "I don't understand." "People don't just do things like this. There's always a price, always an expectation. What do you want from me? Right now, your name, a conversation if you're willing. Maybe the chance to buy you coffee somewhere far away from that restaurant and those people." "I can't pay you back," Ashley said bluntly. "I don't know when I could pay you back. I work at a community center and volunteer at a shelter, and I barely make enough to cover rent each month. So if this is some kind of investment, you should know you're making a terrible choice." The man's smile grew. "I've built a career on making unconventional choices. They usually work out better than the safe ones." He extended his hand. "My name is Tully Shepard." Ashley hesitated, then took his hand. His grip was warm, firm, grounding. "Ashley Crudell." "Ashley," he repeated, like he was testing how her name felt. "That's a beautiful name. It doesn't match the cruelty they were throwing at you. It's the only thing they gave me that I actually want to keep," Ashley admitted quietly. She released his hand, immediately missing the connection. "I still don't understand why you're doing this." Tully was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "Have you ever watched someone do something that fundamentally changes your perspective? Something that makes you see possibility where you didn't before. Ashley shook her head slowly. I spent my evening reviewing contracts, thinking about expansions and acquisitions and all the mechanical parts of building something successful. Then I watched you refuse to break when everything around you was designed to shatter you. I watched you maintain dignity when most people would have screamed or begged or collapsed. And I realized I was watching someone with the kind of strength money can't buy and most people never develop. His words landed somewhere deep in Ashley's chest, in a place that had been starved for recognition her entire life. You don't know me. I could be terrible. I could be everything they said I was. Are you? Tully asked simply. No, Ashley said immediately, then stopped. At least I don't think so. I try not to be. But they've been telling me who I am for so long, sometimes I wonder if they're right. They're not. The certainty in his voice was absolute. People who need to destroy others to feel powerful are never right about anything meaningful. He gestured toward the street. Can I walk you somewhere? Get you that coffee? You look like you could use something warm and somewhere quiet to process what just happened. Ashley knew she should say no, should thank him politely and disappear into the night and never think about this surreal encounter again. But something in her was desperately tired of always doing what she should do. Always playing it safe, always protecting herself by never letting anyone close enough to hurt her. Okay, she heard herself say. Coffee sounds good. They walked in companionable silence for a block before Tully spoke again. The woman who did that to you, she's your sister. Adopted sister, Ashley clarified automatically, then caught herself. Sorry, that's what she'd say. What she always says. We were both adopted into the family, but she was adopted as an infant. I came later, when I was older. I remember being somewhere else before. She doesn't, so in her mind that makes her more legitimate, more real, more deserving of everything, and the rest of the family agrees with her? They tolerate me because it looks good, Ashley said, surprised by her own honesty. Something about the darkness and the stranger beside her made confession easier. Charitable family takes in unfortunate child. It plays well in their social circles. But actually treating me like family, actually caring, that was never part of the arrangement. They reached a small cafe, tucked between larger buildings, its windows glowing with warm light. Tully held the door open, and Ashley stepped into a space that smelled like coffee and cinnamon and safety. The late hour meant few customers, just a couple in the corner and a student with a laptop. Perfect for a conversation she wasn't sure she wanted to have, but desperately needed. They settled into a corner booth, and Tully ordered for them both, after confirming Ashley's preferences. When the coffee arrived, rich and dark and exactly what she needed, Ashley wrapped her hands around the cup and let its warmth seep into her cold fingers. Tell me about the community center, Tully said, his attention focused completely on her. What do you do there? The question surprised her. Most people, when they learned about her situation, wanted to dissect the family drama or offer unwanted advice. Tully seemed genuinely interested in her life, not her problems. I teach literacy classes, Ashley explained, feeling some of the tension in her shoulders ease. Adults who never learned to read properly, immigrants working on their language skills, teenagers who fell through the cracks in the school system. It's not glamorous work and it doesn't pay much, but it matters. When someone reads their first complete book, or writes their first letter, or suddenly understands something that was locked away from them before, that's worth more than any fancy dinner. Tully leaned forward, his eyes bright with interest. How did you get into that work? Because I know what it's like to feel locked out of spaces people take for granted, Ashley said quietly. To feel like you're not good enough, smart enough, worthy enough to belong somewhere. If I can help even one person break through those barriers, then maybe all the times I felt that way means something. The conversation flowed from there, natural and easy in a way Ashley hadn't experienced in years. Tully asked thoughtful questions, really listening to her answers rather than waiting for his turn to talk. He asked about the shelter where she volunteered, the kids she worked with, the small ways she tried to make the world slightly less cruel, and surprisingly, he shared too. not about wealth or status or the things most successful people led with. He talked about growing up with nothing, about building something from scratch, about the loneliness that came with success. "Everyone wants something from me," he admitted, echoing words Ashley had heard earlier. "Partnerships, investments, connections, access. It's exhausting, constantly calculating whether people see me or just see what I can do for them." "Is that why you helped me?" Ashley asked. "Because I didn't ask?" "I helped you because you deserved help. Because what they did was wrong. And because," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "because watching you walk away from that table, I saw someone real. Not performing, not pretending, just genuinely trying to survive something terrible with grace. That's rare. That matters." Ashley felt something shift in her chest, like a door she'd kept locked for years, suddenly creaking open just slightly. This man, this stranger who'd paid her impossible debt without hesitation, saw her, actually saw her. Not the burden, not the adopted disappointment, not the charity case. Her. "I don't know how to thank you," she said quietly. "The money, the coffee, this conversation. It's more than anyone's given me in longer than I can remember." "Then don't thank me," Tully said simply. "Just let me see you again. Have dinner with me. A real one, where nobody hands you a bill at the end. Let me get to know the woman who reminded me why I started caring about anything in the first place." Ashley's breath caught. This wasn't just kindness. This was interest, genuine, unmistakable interest. And it terrified her, because interest meant vulnerability, meant risk, meant the possibility of another ending where she lost everything, but it also meant possibility. And hadn't she just decided she was tired of always playing it safe? "Okay," she said softly. "Dinner, but somewhere quiet. Somewhere far from fancy restaurants and family drama." Tully's smile was brilliant. "I know just the place." He pulled out his wallet and extracted a card, simple, elegant, with just his name and phone number. "Call me when you're ready. No pressure, no expectations. Just the possibility of something good." Ashley took the card, tucking it carefully into her pocket like a talisman. They finished their coffee talking about smaller things, favorite books, terrible movies they secretly loved, places they'd always wanted to visit. When they finally left the cafe, the night felt less hostile, the world less impossible. Tully walked her to the transit station, refusing to let her go alone. At the entrance, he paused. "Ashley Crudell, thank you for the best evening I've had in years. I just cried on you and told you my family hates me," Ashley said with a weak laugh. "Exactly," Tully replied. "You were real. That's more valuable than you know." He hesitated, then added, "They're wrong about you. Whatever they've made you believe about yourself, they're wrong. I hope you'll let me prove that to you." He disappeared into the night before Ashley could respond, leaving her standing at the station entrance with a business card in her pocket and something dangerous blooming in her chest. Hope. Inside the restaurant. Hours earlier, Paisley had watched through the floor-to-ceiling windows as Tully Shepard, billionaire, investor, one of the city's most influential men, approached her pathetic adopted sister, had watched him pay the bill without hesitation, had watched them walk away together, deep in conversation, and now, sitting in her luxury apartment, Paisley stared at her phone screen, at the search results for Tully Shepard, at his net worth and influence and power, and felt something cold and vicious coil in her stomach. Ashley didn't deserve this. Didn't deserve rescue, didn't deserve attention from someone like him, didn't deserve anything good. Paisley had worked her entire life to position herself perfectly, to attract the right kind of notice, to build the right connections, and somehow, pathetic Ashley had stumbled into exactly what Paisley wanted most, the attention of a man who could change everything. This couldn't stand, wouldn't stand. Paisley picked up her phone and began making calls. Chapter 3. The Unfolding. Trust is a language Ashley never learned to speak, until someone showed her the dictionary. One patient word at a time. The flowers arrived on a morning when Ashley had almost convinced herself the previous night had been a fever dream. She'd woken in her small apartment, the business card still in her jacket pocket, and wondered if she'd imagined the whole encounter. Rich men didn't rescue strangers, didn't pay impossible debts. But then the knock came, and the delivery person stood there with an arrangement that made her breath catch. Not roses, too obvious. Instead, a mix of wildflowers and elegant blooms arranged in a simple glass vase. The card read, "Thank you for reminding me what grace looks like. T.S." Ashley set the vase on her kitchen counter and found herself crying again, but these tears were different, softer, almost hopeful. She pulled out her phone, stared at the business card, and sent a text. "The flowers are beautiful. Thank you." His response came within minutes. "Not as beautiful as your resilience." "Coffee this week?" She smiled despite herself. Yes, the coffee meeting happened at a quiet cafe far from any place her family frequented. Ashley chose her clothes carefully. Nothing too nice, nothing too casual. Simple and honest. Tully arrived exactly on time. His face when he saw her, the way it softened, the genuine smile that was for her specifically. "Ashley," he said, her name sounding important in his voice. They settled into a corner booth, and what was supposed to be an hour stretched into 3. Tully asked about her work, really digging into what she did at the community center. He wanted to know about specific students, what challenges they faced, what victories looked like. "There's this woman, Ramona," Ashley found herself explaining, animated. "She's in her 50s, never learned to read because her family needed her working young. For months she struggled. Then last week she read an entire children's book to her grandkids for the first time. She called me afterward crying because she'd finally given them something she thought only smart people could give." Tully's eyes were intent on her face. "That must have been incredible to witness." "It was everything," Ashley said simply. "It's why I do this work. Those moments when someone realizes they're not limited by what others told them they were. That's transformation." "You're remarkable," Tully said quietly. "The way you talk about these people, the way you see them, it's not charity. It's respect." Ashley felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I'm just doing what anyone would do." "No," Tully corrected gently. "You're doing what you wish someone had done for you. There's a difference." The accuracy made Ashley's throat tight. He saw too much, understood too quickly. Tully shared too, about building his companies from nothing, about the loneliness that came with success. "Everyone has an angle," he admitted. "Everyone wants something. Partnerships, investments, leverage. After a while, you stop trusting that anyone sees you past what you can provide." "Is that why you're here?" Ashley asked. "Because I don't want anything from you? I'm here because you're the first person in years who looked at me and didn't calculate my net worth before deciding how to interact." He leaned forward. "I'm here because watching you refuse to break taught me something I'd forgotten, that real strength isn't about power. It's about maintaining your core when everything's trying to change it." The conversation flowed naturally, dancing between serious and light. When they finally left, the afternoon had disappeared into evening. Tully walked her toward the transit station slowly, like he was reluctant to let the time end. "Can I see you again?" he asked at the station entrance. "Soon?" "Yes," Ashley said, the word coming easier than it should. The next days unfolded in a pattern that made Ashley's carefully controlled life feel suddenly unpredictable. A book arrived, one she'd mentioned loving but lost in a move. An invitation to an art gallery, showing sculptures from an artist she admired. Small gestures that showed he paid attention. Each gesture chipped away at Ashley's walls. She'd spent so long protecting herself, keeping everyone at a distance, that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. Their third meeting was a walk through a park. Autumn had settled in, painting the world in amber and rust. They talked about everything. Childhood memories, books that changed them, dreams they'd set aside. "I wanted to be a teacher," Ashley admitted. "A real one with a classroom. But that requires credentials I couldn't afford, and time I needed to spend working." "That's not true," Tully said firmly. "Nothing about your circumstances is permanent unless you decide it is. If teaching is what you want, we can figure out how to make that happen." Ashley stopped walking, turning to face him. "Why do you do that?" Talk about my problems like they're solvable. Because most barriers are just stories we tell ourselves about why we can't. Money, time, credentials, those are logistics, not destiny. You make it sound so simple. I make it sound possible, he corrected. There's a difference. He stepped closer. Ashley, you've spent your whole life being told you're not enough. But watching you, listening to you, you're more than enough. You're extraordinary. And the only thing holding you back is believing the lies they've been feeding you. His words hit something deep in Ashley's chest. Tears pricked her eyes. You barely know me. I know enough, Tully said softly. I know you maintain grace under pressure that would break most people. I know you dedicate your life to lifting others, even when you're struggling. I know you refuse to become bitter despite having every reason to. That's not barely knowing you. That's seeing exactly who you are. The moment stretched between them, charged with something Ashley was afraid to name. When Tully's hand brushed against hers, she didn't pull away. When his fingers tentatively laced with hers, she squeezed back. I'm scared, Ashley admitted quietly. I'm scared to trust this. Everyone who was supposed to care about me has hurt me. What if you're just another version of that? Then I'll spend however long it takes proving I'm not, Tully said simply. I'm not asking you to trust me blindly. I'm asking you to give me the chance to earn it. They stood there in the fading light, hands linked, the world quiet around them. Ashley felt her defenses cracking, hope seeping through. It was terrifying. But maybe terror was just the price of possibility. One evening, after another dinner where they talked until the staff started cleaning around them, Tully walked Ashley to her apartment building. At the entrance he paused. I need you to know something, he said, voice low and serious. This isn't casual for me. You're not casual for me. I know we've only known each other a short time, but Ashley, you've changed something fundamental in how I see the world. And I need you to know that whatever comes next, I'm in this completely. Ashley's breath caught. This was the moment where she could step back, protect herself, maintain safe distance. Or the moment where she could step forward into something unknown and possibly devastating, but also possibly extraordinary. I want to believe you, she whispered. I want to believe this is real. But Tully, my family, they won't accept this. They won't let me be happy. You don't know what they're capable of. Then let me find out, Tully said, stepping closer. Let me face whatever comes with you, instead of watching you face it alone. You've been fighting by yourself your entire life. You don't have to anymore. The sincerity in his eyes undid her. Before she could second guess, Ashley rose on her toes and kissed him, brief, soft, a question and answer all at once. When she pulled back, Tully's expression was wonder and heat. That was, he started. A terrible idea, probably. Ashley finished with a shaky laugh. The best terrible idea ever, Tully countered, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. Can I see you tomorrow? And the day after? And every day you'll let me? Yes, Ashley said, the word feeling like a promise and a risk and a beginning all tangled together. She watched him disappear into the night before heading inside. In her apartment, she found herself smiling at nothing, feeling something she'd almost forgotten existed, happiness. Pure, uncomplicated happiness. Miles away, in the family estate's formal living room, Paisley sat with Delphine and several other family members, her laptop open. This has gone on long enough, Paisley announced, voice tight with rage. Ashley with Tully Shepherd is a disaster for our reputation. Delphine nodded sharply. That girl has always been problematic. Now she's using her situation to manipulate a man of real standing. What do you propose? One of the uncles asked. Paisley's smile was cold. We remind Mr. Shepherd exactly what kind of person he's involving himself with. We show him the truth about dear Ashley, or at least our version of it. The family began strategizing, compiling information, twisting facts, preparing their campaign. Ashley had always been easy to control through isolation and shame. Now they just needed to extend that control to the man foolish enough to believe in her. Outside the estate, a storm was gathering, but inside her small apartment, Ashley fell asleep with a smile, unaware that the happiness she'd finally allowed herself was about to be tested in ways she couldn't imagine. Chapter 4. The poisoning begins manipulation. Doesn't announce itself with trumpets. It whispers through family lips. Wearing the mask of concern, the emergency family meeting convened 2 days after Paisley first spotted Ashley with Tully Shepherd. The estate's formal dining room served as their war room, its mahogany table laden with laptops, printed photos, and carefully compiled documentation. Paisley stood at the head of the table like a prosecutor. "We have a situation that requires immediate intervention," she announced, voice crisp with fury. Ashley has somehow attached herself to Tully Shepherd. For those who don't recognize the name, he's one of the wealthiest and most influential men in the city. And our adopted sister is now being seen with him regularly. Delphine leaned back, fingers steepled. "This is precisely the kind of embarrassment I feared. She's always been opportunistic, but this is beyond anything I anticipated." "It's not just embarrassment," Paisley continued, projecting images onto the wall. Photos of Ashley and Tully at the cafe, the gallery, walking through the park. "This is a threat to our reputation. What happens when people start asking questions about her background? When they realize she's unstable and manipulative?" Uncle Gerald spoke up. "What do you propose? We can't forbid her from seeing anyone." "No," Paisley agreed, her smile sharp. "But we can ensure Mr. Shepherd knows exactly who he's involving himself with. We can provide context. We can show him the pattern of behavior he's too infatuated to see." She opened a thick folder, spreading its contents. "I've been gathering evidence. Old photos that can be recontexted. Statements from family friends. Financial records that can be interpreted as suspicious. By the time we're finished, Mr. Shepherd will see Ashley for what she truly is, a manipulative social climber." Delphine picked up one of the documents approvingly. "This is good work, but we must be careful. Men like Tully Shepherd don't respond well to obvious manipulation. This needs to feel like concerned family members reluctantly sharing difficult truths." "Exactly my plan," Paisley confirmed. "I'll approach him privately in his office, sister to sister, worried about both Ashley and him. I'll present the evidence as something I hate sharing, but feel morally obligated to reveal." The word "again" hung deliberately, implying a history that didn't exist. "What if he doesn't believe you?" Another family member asked. "Then we escalate," Paisley said simply. "But I don't think that will be necessary. The evidence looks compelling, and men are remarkably susceptible to doubt once it's planted. We just need to create enough uncertainty that he starts questioning everything." Meanwhile, unaware of the trap being constructed, Ashley was experiencing genuine happiness. The days since that first kiss had unfolded like a dream. Tully had integrated himself into her life with ease, showing up at the community center, joining her on volunteer shifts, fitting into her world rather than demanding she transform. "You're different here," Ashley observed one afternoon as they sorted donations at the shelter. Tully had rolled up his sleeves and dove into the work without hesitation. "Different how?" he asked, setting aside a box of children's clothes. More relaxed. "Like you don't have to be Tully Shepherd, important person here. You can just be Tully. That's because no one here wants anything from me except help sorting donations and moving boxes. Most of my life is spent in rooms where everyone is calculating angles. Here people just say what they mean." "Is that why you keep coming back?" Ashley asked. "I keep coming back because you're here," Tully said simply. "The rest is just bonus." Heat flooded Ashley's cheeks. "You're going to spoil me with all this attention." "Good," Tully replied. "You deserve to be spoiled. You deserve to have someone show up consistently, reliably, without conditions. That's not special treatment. That's baseline human decency you've been denied your entire life." Their relationship deepened with each passing day. Quiet dinners where conversation flowed for hours, walks through different neighborhoods, movie nights in Ashley's tiny apartment where Tully declared her second-hand couch the most comfortable place he'd been all week. One evening, as they stood on Ashley's small balcony watching the city lights, Tully pulled her closer. "I'm falling in love with you," he said quietly. "I don't know if it's too soon to say that, but I've never been good at pretending I feel less than I do." Ashley's heart stuttered. Tully, you don't have to say it back, he interrupted gently. I just needed you to know this isn't casual or temporary. What I feel for you is real and growing and changing how I see my entire future. Ashley turned in his arms. I'm terrified, she admitted. I'm terrified this is too good, that something will come and take it away. Then stay awake with me, Tully said. We'll face whatever comes together. She kissed him then, deep and certain. When they finally broke apart, Ashley rested her forehead against his chest. I'm falling too, she whispered. I'm falling and I don't know how to stop myself. Then don't, Tully murmured. Fall with me. We'll figure out the landing together. That night they crossed the threshold they'd been dancing around. The physical intimacy was intense but tender, vulnerable but certain. Afterward, as Ashley lay curled against Tully's side, she felt complete safety, not just physical but emotional. The kind that comes from being truly seen. I love you, she said into the darkness, testing the words. I'm still terrified, but I love you. Tully's arms tightened around her. I love you too. And Ashley, I promise you, I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens, we face it together. It was a promise he meant completely, one that would be tested sooner than either anticipated. The next morning, while Ashley was at work, Tully's assistant buzzed in. Mr. Shepherd, there's a Paisley Crudell here to see you. She says it's urgent and concerns Ashley. Tully's jaw tightened. He'd heard enough about Paisley to know she was trouble, but refusing to see her would only fuel whatever campaign she was preparing. Send her in. Paisley entered his office like she owned it, her designer outfit calculated to impress, her expression perfectly crafted concern. She'd practiced this performance. Mr. Shepherd, she began, extending her hand. Thank you for seeing me. I know this is unexpected, but I felt I had a moral obligation to speak with you. Tully shook her hand briefly, gesturing to the chair while remaining standing. A power play, she noticed. What can I do for you, Miss Crudell? Please call me Paisley. She settled into the chair, pulling out her prepared folder. I'm here because I care about my sister. Despite our differences, Ashley is family, and I want what's best for her. Which is why I need to share some concerns with you. Tully crossed his arms, expression neutral. What concerns? Paisley opened the folder. I hate doing this, truly. But Mr. Shepherd, Tully, you seem like a good man. And I worry that Ashley is taking advantage of your kindness in ways you don't see yet. She pulled out the first document, a photo of Ashley with an unidentified man from years ago. This is from several years back. Ashley has a pattern of forming relationships with successful men. This particular man was married at the time. That's a serious accusation, Tully said carefully. It's not an accusation, it's history. Paisley's voice trembled perfectly. We've tried to help her, but Ashley resists any attempt at intervention. She views our concern as persecution. More documents emerged. Bank statements, she claimed, showed suspicious deposits. Text screenshots that were obviously doctored but looked convincing at first glance. Testimonies from concerned family friends about Ashley's manipulative behavior. We love her, Paisley continued, dabbing at dry eyes. But we've watched this pattern repeat. She finds a successful man, plays the victim, extracts what she can, then moves on. And I'm watching it happen again with you. Tully listened to the entire presentation, face unreadable. Inside, his mind analyzed every claim, looking for the manipulations he suspected were there. But Paisley had done her work well. The evidence looked disturbingly compelling. Why bring this to me now? Tully asked. Why not approach Ashley directly? Because she'll deny everything, paint me as the jealous sister, trying to sabotage her happiness. She's very good at playing the victim. You've seen it yourself. Paisley leaned forward. I'm not trying to break you up. I'm trying to protect you both. Ashley needs help, and you deserve to know who you're really involved with before you get in too deep. Tully was quiet for a long moment. Everything in him wanted to dismiss this woman, but the doubt had been planted, small but insistent. What if there was truth here? What if his feelings were blinding him? I appreciate your concern, he finally said, tone carefully neutral. I'll take this information under advisement. That's all I ask, Paisley replied, standing. She left the folder on his desk. "Please just be careful. I don't want to see either of you hurt." After she left, Tully sat at his desk, staring at the folder for a long time. He didn't believe Paisley, not entirely. Her performance had been too perfect, her evidence too conveniently organized. But the seed of doubt had been planted. When Ashley arrived that evening for their planned dinner, Tully found himself watching her differently, looking for signs of deception he didn't actually believe existed, but couldn't quite dismiss either. "Everything okay?" Ashley asked, noticing his distraction. "You seem distant." This was the moment. Tully could dismiss Paisley's claims and say nothing, or he could be honest about the doubt that had been introduced. Chapter 5. Whispers and lies. The most dangerous lies are the ones wrapped in concern, delivered with a sister's crocodile tears. The words hung between them like a blade. Ashley went very still, her wine glass frozen halfway to her lips. She set it down carefully, hands steady despite the sudden roar of blood in her ears. Of course Paisley had done this. Of course she'd poisoned the well. This was exactly what Ashley had feared, that happiness would be snatched away just when she'd allowed herself to believe in it. "What did she tell you?" Ashley's voice was calm, but Tully could hear the brittleness underneath. Tully pulled out the folder Paisley had left, sliding it across the table. "She said you have a pattern of targeting successful men, that you manipulate them emotionally and financially. Photos, bank statements, testimonies from family friends. She said you need professional help, and that I'm just the latest in a line of men you've used." Ashley opened the folder, her expression unreadable as she flipped through the pages. Tully watched her carefully, looking for signs of recognition, guilt, panic. What he saw instead looked like resignation mixed with deep sadness. "This photo," Ashley said, pointing to the one with the unidentified man, "is from a community center event years ago. That's Ramon, one of the volunteers. He was married, yes, happily. His wife took the photo. They moved away for his job." She flipped to the bank statements. "These deposits are from my paycheck and the small inheritance I got when my biological grandmother died." Notice how Paisley conveniently cropped out the source information. Her finger traced to another document. "These testimonies, I don't recognize half these names. And the ones I do, they're people who've never spoken more than 5 words to me." Tully leaned forward, studying the documents with new attention. Now that Ashley pointed it out, he could see the cropping, the omissions, the way context had been carefully removed. "Why would she do this?" he asked, though he suspected he knew. Ashley closed the folder and pushed it back. "Because she can't stand that I'm happy. Because in her worldview, I don't deserve good things. I'm supposed to be grateful for scraps, not sitting at the table as an equal. And you, successful, respected you, choosing me. That's an insult to everything she believes." "Ashley, no, let me finish." She stood, and Tully saw the steel in her spine that had first captured his attention. "I won't fight for you to believe me. I won't beg or desperately defend myself against lies designed to break me. I've spent my entire life doing that, defending my worth to people who'd already decided I was worthless. I'm not doing it anymore. Not even for you." The words hit Tully like a physical blow. "That's not fair. I'm asking for your side, giving you the chance to respond by presenting me with a folder full of manufactured evidence and watching to see how I react." Ashley interrupted, voice shaking. "Like I'm on trial. Like the months we've spent together. Everything you've seen me do and be can be erased by a few doctored photos. Either you trust what you've seen in me, or you trust what they've told you about me." Her dignity in that moment, her refusal to beg or prove herself, struck Tully powerfully. He watched her leave, and something crystallized. He's built an empire on reading people, on seeing through facades. Nothing about Ashley has ever been false. That night Tully didn't sleep. He sat in his office, the folder open, studying every document with the analytical mind that had built his empire. And the more he looked, the more cracks he saw. The cropping Ashley mentioned, the suspicious similarity in the testimonies, the bank statements that showed numbers but no identifying information. This wasn't evidence. This was theater. A carefully constructed narrative designed to manipulate his perceptions. But more than that, as he sat in the pre-dawn darkness, Tully realized something fundamental. He'd let Paisley's performance make him doubt his own judgment. He'd spent months with Ashley, had seen her in dozens of situations. She'd been consistent, kind, honest, transparently vulnerable. Nothing had ever suggested manipulation, and yet one slick presentation from a woman he'd immediately distrusted had been enough to make him question everything. At dawn, Tully made a phone call. His head of security answered on the second ring. "I need you to investigate someone thoroughly, Paisley Crudell, and I need you to verify or disprove every claim in this folder I'm sending you. I want the truth, not the story, and I want it fast." "How thorough should I be?" his security chief asked. "Completely. I want to know everything." The report arrived within 2 days. Every single claim about Ashley fabricated. The photos were innocent moments maliciously recontexted. The bank statements were legitimate, but presented deceptively. The testimonies were from people who'd been paid or coerced. But more than that, the investigation revealed Paisley's own history. Financial improprieties covered up by the family. An affair with a colleague's husband that had required a settlement to keep quiet. A pattern of destroying anyone who threatened her position. The family had been protecting Paisley for years, while using Ashley as their scapegoat. Tully sat in his office reading the report, shame and fury warring in his chest. He doubted Ashley, had made her defend herself against lies he should have dismissed immediately. The woman he loved had walked out feeling betrayed and questioned, and it was his fault. He found Ashley at the community center, teaching a class. Through the window, he watched her interact with her students, patient, encouraging, completely present. One student was struggling, frustration evident. Ashley said something that made the woman laugh, then guided her through the difficult section. When the student finally understood, Ashley's expression of genuine joy was radiant. This was who she was. This had always been who she was, and he'd let doubt cloud what should have been absolute certainty. When the class ended, Tully entered the room. Ashley saw him, and her expression shuttered immediately. "What are you doing here?" "I owe you an apology," Tully said simply. "And an explanation." "I'm not interested in apologies right now," Ashley replied, gathering her materials. "Then just listen," Tully pressed. "Please give me 5 minutes." Ashley paused, jaw tight. 5 minutes. Tully pulled out his phone, showing her the investigation report. "I should never have doubted you. Not for a second. But I let Paisley plant doubt. So I had her investigated. Every claim she made about you, fabricated. But more than that, I found out who she really is." He showed her the findings, Paisley's embezzlement, the affairs, the paid testimonies, the pattern of destruction. Ashley read in silence. "I'm not showing you this to excuse my doubt," Tully continued. "What I did was wrong regardless. I'm showing you this because you deserve to know the truth about who's been attacking you. And because I need you to understand, I see you, Ashley. I see exactly who you are. And I'm sorry I let anyone make me question that." Ashley was quiet for a long time, staring at the phone. When she finally looked up, her eyes were wet. "You hurt me, asking me to defend myself against lies, looking at me like I might be someone I've never been. That hurt worse than anything Paisley's ever done." "I know," Tully said quietly, "and I'll spend however long it takes making that right." "How do I know this won't happen again?" Ashley asked. "How do I know the next time someone comes with lies, you won't doubt me again?" "Because I learned something these past 2 days," Tully replied. "I learned that doubting you was doubting myself. My judgment, my observations, my ability to see people clearly. You've been consistent since the moment we met. Honest, transparent, exactly who you appeared to be. The only person I should have doubted was the one presenting manufactured evidence." He stepped closer. "I love you, Ashley, and love means trusting what I know about you over what anyone tells me about you. I forgot that. I won't forget again." Ashley closed her eyes, tears falling freely. "I love you too. But Tully, this is just the beginning. They won't stop. Paisley won't stop. They'll keep coming, keep trying to break us apart." Then let them try, Tully said fiercely, because now I know exactly who they are and what they're capable of. And Ashley, they just made their biggest mistake, showing me their entire playbook up front. Every move they make from here, I'll be 10 steps ahead. They can't touch you anymore. I won't let them. Ashley opened her eyes, searching his face. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me that if you ever doubt me again, you'll come to me first. Ask me directly before you believe anyone else's version of who I am. I promise, Tully said without hesitation. I promise to trust you first always. To give you the benefit of doubt before I give it to anyone else. To remember that actions over time mean more than accusations in a folder. She stepped into his arms then, and he held her like she was the only solid thing in a shifting world. We're going to be okay, he murmured. Stronger than before, because now we know what we're fighting against. Ashley nodded against his chest, but in her heart she knew this was just the first battle. Paisley would escalate. The family would intensify their campaign, and the real test of whether their love could survive was still ahead of them. Outside the community center, in a car parked across the street, Paisley watched Tully and Ashley embrace through the window. Her hands gripped the steering wheel hard enough to hurt. The evidence had been perfect. How had he seen through it so quickly? No matter, this was just the opening move. She had other strategies, other weapons. And next time, she'd make sure the evidence was too compelling to dismiss, too public to ignore, too devastating to overcome. She picked up her phone and made a call. We need to escalate. I need something bigger, something public, something that will destroy her completely before he has a chance to defend her. Chapter 6. Foundations Rebuilt Truth. Doesn't just set you free, it shows you exactly who deserves your trust and who deserves your fury. The weeks following Tully's investigation brought an unexpected shift in their relationship. What had been growing naturally before now grew with intentional depth, like roots pushing deeper after a storm. The temporary crisis had tested them, and passing that test meant something. It meant they could survive doubt and emerge stronger. Ashley found herself opening up in ways she never had before, sharing stories she'd kept locked away for years. Late one night, curled together on Tully's couch with rain pattering against the windows, she told him about the day she'd been adopted. I was 8, she said quietly, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. Old enough to remember being somewhere else before, but young enough to hope this new family would love me. Delphine smiled at the adoption ceremony, said all the right words. But afterward, in the car going to their house, Paisley leaned over and whispered, "You'll never be real family. You'll always be the charity case." Tully's arms tightened around her. 8 years old and she was already that cruel? She knew I was a threat somehow. Competition for attention, resources, love. Except she'd already secured all of that by being there first, by being an infant adoption, by fitting the picture they wanted. I was just the good deed they could mention at parties. Ashley laughed without humor. Do you know how many times I heard, "We adopted an older child. It's so rewarding to give back." Like I was a volunteer project, not a person. I'm sorry, Tully said, pressing a kiss to her temple. I'm sorry you grew up feeling like you had to earn something that should have been freely given. The worst part was, I kept trying, Ashley admitted. I was the perfect daughter, the perfect student, never caused trouble, never asked for anything. I thought if I was good enough, quiet enough, helpful enough, they'd finally see me as belonging. But Paisley was always there to remind them, and me that I didn't. Tully was quiet for a moment, his hand running gently through her hair. You know what I see when I look at you? What? Someone who survived systematic emotional abuse and came out compassionate instead of bitter. Someone who was taught they were worthless and decided to spend their life showing others their worth. Someone who maintained their integrity in an environment designed to break it. He tilted her face up to meet his eyes. I see someone extraordinary who's been convinced they're ordinary, and I consider it my life's mission to prove otherwise. Ashley felt tears prick her eyes. You make me believe it might be true. It is true, Tully said firmly, and I'll remind you every day until you believe it as completely as I do. The emotional intimacy between them deepened into something profound. They shared not just experiences but fears, dreams, the vulnerable parts of themselves usually kept hidden. Tully told her about building his first venture from nothing, about the loneliness of success, about relationships that had been transactional at best. I thought I'd accepted that this was just how life worked at this level, he admitted one morning over coffee in Ashley's kitchen. Everyone wants something, so you learn to manage expectations and keep emotional distance. Then you walked into my world and wanted nothing except to be seen as a person. It was like remembering a language I'd forgotten I spoke. I want things from you, Ashley protested gently. You want honesty, respect, consistency, basic human decency. You don't want my connections or my wealth or access to my world. You want me. Tully reached across the small table, lacing his fingers with hers. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How precious. The romantic intensity between them grew naturally from this emotional foundation. Their physical connection had always been electric, but now it carried deeper meaning. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss was a declaration. When they made love, it felt like communication beyond words, trust made tangible, vulnerability rewarded, connection so complete that boundaries between them blurred. One evening, after a particularly meaningful conversation about their futures, Ashley found herself saying things she'd never imagined voicing. I used to think I'd end up alone, that the pattern would always be people leaving or hurting me, so why bother hoping for different? But with you, I'm starting to imagine a future I want to build, rather than just survive. What does that future look like? Tully asked, genuine curiosity in his voice. Honestly? I don't know exactly, but it involves waking up next to you more often than not. It involves building something meaningful together, not just coexisting, but actually creating. It involves feeling like I belong somewhere, with someone, for the first time in my life. Tully pulled her closer, his voice rough with emotion. I want that too, all of it. And Ashley, we're going to build it. Whatever it takes, however long, we're going to create the life you've always deserved. But even as their relationship strengthened, the family's campaign was escalating. What had started with private manipulation evolved into public attacks. They began showing up at events they knew Ashley and Tully would attend, creating uncomfortable encounters designed to publicly question Ashley's legitimacy. At a fundraiser for a cause Ashley supported, Delphine approached with practiced concern. Ashley, darling, you look wonderful, though I do hope you're being responsible with your finances. We wouldn't want you to rely too heavily on anyone's generosity. The implication was clear. Ashley was gold-digging. Several nearby guests heard and exchanged knowing looks. Tully, standing beside Ashley, responded with cold precision. Mrs. Crudell, I find it interesting that you're concerned about financial responsibility. Should we discuss your family's recent accounting irregularities? I'm sure these guests would find that fascinating. Delphine paled and excused herself quickly. The victory was small but significant. Tully wasn't just defending Ashley privately. He was publicly aligning himself with her, making clear that attacking her meant facing him. But the family adapted. They spread rumors through social circles, whispers about Ashley's past, questions about her stability, suggestions that Tully was being manipulated. The rumors were subtle enough to seem like concerned gossip rather than malicious lies. Paisley cornered mutual acquaintances at social events, sharing carefully edited versions of Ashley's history. We're just so worried about her. She's always been troubled, and now she's attached herself to poor Tully. He's too kind to see he's being used. The whispers spread, creating a constant low-level assault on Ashley's reputation. She felt them everywhere, in the way people looked at her at events, in the hesitation before someone engaged her in conversation, in the suddenly cool reception from people who'd been friendly before. They're good at this, Ashley admitted to Tully one night, exhausted from another event where she'd felt every eye judging her. The way they position themselves as concerned family rather than attackers. How do we fight something so insidious? By being exactly who we are, Tully replied. By showing up consistently, demonstrating your character through actions, refusing to engage with their narrative. Eventually, people will see the truth, that your actions don't match their accusations. But patience was hard when every public appearance felt like a battle, when every social interaction came with the weight of defending her worthiness, when even strangers seemed to have opinions about her relationship and motivations. The family sensed they were losing ground. Tully's public support of Ashley, combined with his obvious investigation of them, had shifted the power dynamic. So they decided to escalate dramatically, to create a scandal so public and so convincing that even Tully's support couldn't protect Ashley from its fallout. Paisley convened another family meeting, this time with hired professionals, a publicist known for managing scandals, a tech expert specializing in digital manipulation, and a lawyer to ensure they stayed just on the right side of legal action. "We need something irrefutable," Paisley declared, pacing the estate study, "something that will destroy her credibility completely before Tully has time to investigate or defend her. What can we create that looks absolutely authentic?" The tech expert leaned forward. "I can create video evidence of virtually anything. With enough source material, photos, videos, audio, I can construct a narrative that will pass casual scrutiny. By the time anyone proves it's fake, the damage will be done." "Perfect," Paisley said, her smile vicious. "I want video evidence of Ashley engaging in behavior that proves everything we've been saying. Multiple partners, questionable situations, anything that paints her as the manipulative gold digger we've always known she was." "That's risky," the lawyer warned. "If it's proven fake, the blowback could be severe." "Then make it convincing enough that proving it's fake takes time," Paisley countered. "We don't need it to hold up forever. We just need it to hold up long enough to break them apart. Once doubt is reintroduced, serious, public doubt with apparent evidence, their relationship won't survive. Trust damage that severely never fully recovers." The family agreed to the plan, pooling resources for the substantial cost. They compiled source material, photos of Ashley from social media, voice samples from public videos, footage from various locations around the city. The tech expert took everything and began constructing their weapon. "How long until it's ready?" Delphine asked, her impatience evident. "Give me 2 weeks," the expert replied. "I'll create something that will look absolutely authentic at first glance. Something that will go viral before anyone has time to question it." Meanwhile, unaware of the trap being constructed, Ashley and Tully continued building their life together. They'd started discussing practical next steps, Ashley potentially moving in with Tully, combining their lives more officially, planning a future that felt increasingly real and possible. "I'm happy," Ashley said one evening, the admission sounding almost surprised. "Actually happy. I keep waiting for something to ruin it, but maybe sometimes good things just get to stay good." Tully kissed her softly. "Good things get to stay good. And we're going to protect this, Ashley. Whatever comes, however they try to attack us, we're going to protect what we've built." It was a promise made with absolute sincerity. Neither of them could have anticipated how soon and how devastatingly that promise would be tested. In the estate study, the tech expert finalized the fabricated video and uploaded it to an encrypted server. "It's ready," he announced. "Once we release this, it's going to spread like wildfire. Are you sure you want to do this?" Paisley's hand hovered over her phone, ready to trigger the distribution. For a brief moment she hesitated. This was beyond anything they'd done before. This was active destruction, not just passive undermining. If discovered, the consequences could be severe, but the image of Ashley and Tully together, happy and in love, overrode any hesitation. She pressed send. "Let's burn her world down." Chapter 7. The siege intensifies when people realize they're losing. They don't retreat. They charge forward with everything they have left. Consequences be damned. The video appeared everywhere simultaneously. Ashley's phone started buzzing at dawn. Messages from numbers she didn't recognize, notifications from social media platforms she barely used, emails with subject lines that made her stomach drop. She opened the first link with trembling hands and felt her world shatter. The video was grainy, but disturbingly convincing. It showed her, or someone who looked exactly like her, in compromising situations with multiple men, in locations that looked familiar but couldn't be, engaged in behavior that contradicted everything she'd ever stood for. The editing was sophisticated enough to pass casual scrutiny, the audio convincing enough to sound real, the context damning enough to destroy her reputation completely. Within hours, it was viral, trending across platforms, shared in groups, discussed in comment sections with vicious glee. "Gold digger exposed," the headlines screamed. "Billionaire's girlfriend's scandal rocks social circles." Pattern of manipulation revealed in shocking footage. Ashley sat on her bathroom floor, phone forgotten beside her, unable to process what was happening. The devastation was immediate and total, not because the video was real, but because she knew how these things worked. Truth was slow and boring. Lies were fast and exciting. Even when proven fake, the stain would remain. People would always wonder, always whisper, always look at her and remember the allegations, even after they were disproven. Her phone rang. Tully. She couldn't answer, couldn't bear to hear his voice, to explain something inexplicable, to defend herself against evidence that looked so convincing. She told him she wouldn't beg for belief, wouldn't defend herself against manufactured lies. And now here she was, faced with the biggest lie yet, and all she could do was sit on cold tile and feel everything she'd built crumbling around her. Tully arrived at her apartment within the hour, using the spare key she'd given him weeks ago. He found her exactly where she'd been since seeing the video, on the bathroom floor, staring at nothing, her phone displaying cruel comments from strangers who'd decided her guilt without question. "Ashley," he said, kneeling beside her. She flinched when he touched her shoulder, and something in his chest cracked at that small movement. "Look at me. Please look at me." She turned her head slowly, and he saw devastation in her eyes, not just from the video, but from anticipating his doubt, his withdrawal, his belief in the lies. "You saw it," she said flatly. "Not a question. I saw it. And I immediately knew it was fake." Tully sat fully, pulling her against his chest despite her resistance. "Ashley, I know you. I know your body, your voice, your mannerisms. That video is convincing to people who don't know you, but to me, it's obviously constructed. You don't move like that, don't talk like that, don't exist like that in any context." "It doesn't matter," Ashley whispered, her voice breaking. "It's everywhere. Everyone's seen it. Everyone believes it. Even if you prove it's fake, the damage is done. This is what they wanted, to destroy me so completely that even your support can't fix it." "Then they underestimated both of us," Tully said firmly. He pulled out his phone, already typing. "I've got my entire tech team analyzing the video. They'll find the manipulation, trace its origin, prove it's fabricated. And Ashley, we're not just going to defend against this. We're going on the offensive." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I'm done playing nice with people who are actively trying to destroy the woman I love. They want warfare? They'll get it. But I fight with truth, resources, and a willingness to expose every single lie they've ever told." His eyes were hard with determination. "They just made their biggest mistake, showing me exactly how far they're willing to go. No more benefit of doubt. No more measured responses. From this moment, we take them down completely." Ashley wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this wasn't the end of everything good she'd found. But the comments kept coming, the notifications kept buzzing, the world kept deciding her guilt without trial or truth. "I need you to trust me," Tully said, lifting her chin gently. "I need you to believe that this won't break us, that we're going to prove the truth, expose their lies, and come out of this stronger. Can you do that?" "I'm so tired of fighting," Ashley admitted. "I've been fighting my entire life, Tully, and I'm just so tired." "Then let me fight for you," he replied. "You've been doing this alone forever. You don't have to anymore. Let me carry some of this weight. Let me use everything I have, resources, connections, power, to protect what we've built. Please, Ashley, trust me." She nodded slowly, letting herself lean into his strength. Okay, but Tully, if this destroys us, if your reputation suffers because of me, then my reputation wasn't worth having, he interrupted firmly. I'd rather stand with you in truth than preserve some image built on abandoning people when they need support most. Tully's team worked with focused intensity. Within hours, they'd identified the manipulation markers in the video: inconsistent lighting, audio anomalies, movement glitches that revealed digital construction. They traced the video's origin through layers of digital obfuscation, following the trail back to its source. By evening, they had comprehensive proof of fabrication and a clear line to who'd created it. The video was made by a specialist known for this kind of work, Tully's security chief reported. He's expensive and discreet, but we found payment records. The money came from an account connected to Paisley Crudel. We have everything. The original source materials they used, the construction timeline, communications about the project. This wasn't just fake. It was commissioned specifically to destroy Ashley's reputation. Tully studied the evidence, his expression glacial. Can you prove this beyond any doubt? Absolutely. We have forensic analysis, payment trails, communications. This will hold up to any scrutiny. Good. Prepare a comprehensive report and have it ready to release publicly. Tully turned to his lawyer. What are our legal options? Multiple causes of action, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, potentially fraud, depending on how widely they distributed the video. With this evidence, we could pursue both civil and criminal charges. Do it. File everything. I want them to understand that attacking Ashley means facing every legal consequence possible. But more than legal action, Tully wanted public vindication. He wanted everyone who'd shared that video, everyone who'd commented with vicious certainty about Ashley's character, to face the truth about who'd really perpetrated a fraud. There's a media gathering tomorrow, Tully said, his mind working through strategy. A lot of the same people who've been circulating the video will be there. I want to make a statement. Public, definitive, impossible to ignore. Over the next hours, Tully's team prepared a counterattack that was comprehensive and damning. They compiled not just proof of the video's fabrication, but a complete history of the family's campaign against Ashley. The doctored evidence, the paid testimonies, the systematic harassment. They prepared to expose everything. Ashley watched this unfold with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Are you sure about this? Going this public? It's going to be a war. We're already in a war, Tully replied. They started it with that video, but we're going to finish it by making sure everyone knows exactly who they are and what they've done. No more shadows, no more whisper campaigns. Everything out in the light where it belongs. That evening, as they prepared for the next day's public response, Ashley felt something shift inside her. The initial devastation had given way to something harder, stronger. She'd survived this latest attack, and she hadn't survived alone. Tully had stood beside her without hesitation, had believed her without question, had mobilized resources she couldn't have imagined to defend her truth. Thank you, she said quietly, as they sat together reviewing the prepared materials. For believing me, for fighting for me, for not running when things got hard. There's nowhere I'd rather be than right here, Tully replied, pulling her close. And Ashley? After tomorrow, everyone's going to know the truth. Not just about the video, but about them. About what they've done to you for years. It's time the world saw exactly who deserves scrutiny and judgment. Meanwhile, at the family estate, Paisley was celebrating. The video had spread even faster than anticipated, the damage seemingly complete. Comments poured in condemning Ashley, questioning Tully's judgment, suggesting he'd been manipulated by a con artist. It was everything she'd hoped for. We did it, she announced to her mother, champagne in hand. She's destroyed. No coming back from this. Even if Tully tries to defend her, too many people have seen that video. The doubt will always be there. Delphine smiled, satisfied. Perhaps now that girl will understand her place. She never should have reached beyond it, but their celebration was premature. Neither noticed the flurry of activity in Tully's circles, the preparation of materials, the media alerts going out about a significant announcement. Neither anticipated that the hunter could become the hunted, that their weapon could be traced back to them, that their victory celebration would be devastatingly short-lived. The next morning would bring revelations they couldn't anticipate and consequences they couldn't avoid. The family had underestimated both Ashley's resilience and Tully's resources, and they were about to learn that destroying someone required more than lies. It required the target staying down. Ashley, with Tully beside her, had no intention of staying down. The war they'd started was about to turn against them with a force they couldn't have imagined. As Ashley fell asleep that night, held securely in Tully's arms, she whispered, "Whatever happens tomorrow, promise me we face it together." "Always," Tully promised. "Tomorrow we show them what happens when you try to destroy something built on truth. We show them that lies only work in darkness, and we're bringing everything into the light." Chapter 8. The ultimate betrayal in the digital age. Lies don't need to be true. They just need to be believable for the 5 minutes it takes to go viral. The media event was supposed to be a networking gathering for the city's elite. Business leaders, philanthropists, society figures, all gathered under the pretense of charitable giving, but really there to see and be seen. Paisley and Delphine attended with confidence, expecting to bask in Ashley's public humiliation, to receive subtle congratulations from those who'd always viewed Ashley as an interloper. What they didn't expect was Tully Shepherd requesting, more accurately, demanding, a few moments to address the assembled crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," the event organizer announced, clearly flustered by Tully's last-minute request, but unable to deny someone of his stature. "Mr. Tully Shepherd has asked to make a brief statement before we proceed with the evening's program." Paisley's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. This wasn't part of the plan. Tully should have been hiding, embarrassed by association with Ashley's scandal, certainly not requesting public speaking time. She caught her mother's eye across the room, seeing her own alarm reflected there. Tully took the small stage with the commanding presence that came from years of high-stakes presentations. Ashley stood beside him, and Paisley felt a surge of fury at how composed she looked. She should have been broken, destroyed, hiding in shame. Instead, she stood with her head high, her hand clasped in Tully's, her expression serene despite what should have been overwhelming humiliation. "I'm going to address something directly," Tully began, his voice clear and carrying to every corner of the room. "Something that's been circulating for the past day. A video purporting to show Ashley Crudel in compromising situations." The room went absolutely silent. This was the scandal everyone had been whispering about, now being addressed openly. Phones were already being pulled out. This was going to be recorded, shared, dissected across social platforms within minutes. "That video is a fabrication," Tully stated flatly, "a sophisticated digital manipulation created specifically to destroy Ashley's reputation." He nodded to his assistant, who pulled up images on the screens flanking the stage. "These are forensic analyses showing the markers of digital construction. Inconsistent lighting, audio anomalies, movement glitches that reveal artificial creation. The screens filled with technical breakdowns, side-by-side comparisons, evidence that made the manipulation obvious once pointed out." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as people pulled out their phones to compare what they'd seen earlier with what Tully was showing now. "More than that," Tully continued, his voice hardening. "We've traced the video's creation and distribution, the specialist who created it, the payment trail that funded it, and most significantly, who commissioned it." Another image appeared. On the screens, payment records, communications, a trail of evidence leading directly to accounts connected to Paisley Crudel. The gasps were audible now. People turned to stare at Paisley, who'd gone white as marble. "This wasn't a leak or a mistake," Tully said, his words measured and devastating. "This was a commissioned attack, paid for and distributed with the express purpose of destroying Ashley's reputation and our relationship." And it's not the first attempt. He pulled up more evidence, the doctored documents from months ago, records of the paid testimonies, a comprehensive timeline of harassment spanning years. Every lie, every manipulation, every calculated attempt to undermine Ashley was laid bare for the assembled elite to witness. What you're seeing is a pattern of systematic abuse, Tully explained. Ashley Crudell was adopted into a family that treated her as a burden rather than a blessing. And when she had the audacity to build a life of her own, to find happiness, despite their constant undermining, they escalated to this, fabricating evidence of behavior she's never engaged in, distributing it widely enough to cause maximum damage, hoping the lies would spread faster than the truth could catch up. He paused, letting that sink in. Around the room, people were exchanging looks, whispering, the social calculus rapidly recalculating. The family they'd viewed as respectable pillars of society were being revealed as vindictive abusers. And Ashley, who they'd been judging based on fabricated evidence, was the victim of a sophisticated smear campaign. I'm sharing this publicly for several reasons, Tully continued. First, because Ashley deserves vindication that's as public and comprehensive as the lies told about her. Second, because anyone who shared that video, commented on it, judged her based on it. You participated in distributing fraudulent material designed to destroy someone's life. You owe her an apology. And third, because I want everyone in this room to understand something clearly. Ashley Crudell is under my protection. Anyone who attacks her attacks me, and I will use every resource at my disposal to defend the truth. He turned to look directly at where Paisley and Delphine stood, frozen in horror. No more whisper campaigns, no more manufactured scandals, no more lies disguised as concern. It ends today. We're pursuing both civil and criminal charges, and everyone in this city is going to know exactly what you've done. The silence that followed was deafening. Then someone began clapping, slowly at first, then others joined. Within moments the room was applauding, not politely but genuinely, the crowd recognizing both the courage it took for Ashley to stand there and the justice of Tully's defense. Paisley's phone was already buzzing with messages. Sponsors cutting ties, board positions being revoked, social invitations being withdrawn. Delphine looked like she might collapse. The family's carefully constructed reputation was crumbling. In real time, broadcast live as people in the room shared Tully's revelations across social platforms. Ashley stood beside Tully, overwhelmed by the support, by the vindication, by the weight of finally being believed publicly and definitively. She'd spent her whole life being told her truth didn't matter. Now it was being declared to everyone who doubted her. After the event, as they prepared to leave, several people approached Ashley directly. Apologies for believing the lies, congratulations on her courage, invitations to collaborate on philanthropic projects. The social rehabilitation was immediate and thorough. Once the truth was known, people wanted to distance themselves from the family and align themselves with Ashley. But vindication, while sweet, didn't erase the damage. As they drove home that night, Ashley was quiet, processing everything that had happened. "What are you thinking?" Tully asked gently. "I'm thinking about how quickly people believed the lies, and how quickly they're apologizing now that they know the truth," Ashley said. "Where was their skepticism before? Where was their requirement for evidence when they were ready to judge me?" "Human nature," Tully replied. "People believe sensational lies more readily than boring truth. It's not fair, but it's consistent." "I know, Ashley paused, searching for words. "I spent my whole life being invisible or judged. Now I'm suddenly visible because of scandal and then vindication. But I'm still the same person I was yesterday and the day before. My worth didn't change based on what people believed about me." "No," Tully agreed. "Your worth never changed. Only people's perception of it. And anyone whose opinion shifts that easily based on whatever narrative is currently trending, their opinion doesn't actually matter." Yours matters, Ashley said quietly. Mine never wavered, Tully reminded her. The video was released and my first thought was, this is fake because I know you. Not the version of you they tried to create, but the real you. That's never going to change. Meanwhile, at the family estate, the aftermath was catastrophic. Phones rang constantly with bad news. Legal papers were being drawn up, accounts were being audited, memberships were being revoked. Everything the family had built on reputation and social standing was collapsing. Paisley sat in her room, scrolling through notifications that ranged from angry to gleeful to condemning. She'd gone from social darling to pariah in a single evening. Her mother had already received notice that several family holdings were being investigated, presumably triggered by Tully's resources being directed toward exposing any and all wrongdoing. This is your fault, Delphine said coldly from Paisley's doorway. You pushed too far. You got greedy and vindictive, and now you've destroyed us all. She didn't deserve him, Paisley shouted, years of resentment erupting. She's nobody. She's nothing. And he chose her over everyone else, over women with pedigree and connections and actual worth. And now everyone knows exactly who you are, Delphine interrupted. A bitter, jealous woman who commissioned fraud to destroy someone's life. Do you understand what this will cost us? What this has already cost us? The family convened one last time, desperate and furious. They discussed options, public apologies, attempts at damage control, strategies for social rehabilitation. But the truth was inescapable. They'd been exposed completely, and there was no coming back from what Tully had revealed. We need to try one more time, Paisley insisted, her voice edged with desperation. Something even bigger, something that can't be traced back to us. Enough! Delphine's voice cracked like a whip. You've done enough damage. Every move we make now will be scrutinized, investigated, exposed. Tully Shepherd has made us his mission. The only thing left is damage control. But Paisley wasn't ready to accept defeat. That night, alone in her room, she began planning one final attempt. If she couldn't destroy Ashley's reputation, maybe she could destroy Ashley's confidence. A different kind of attack, more personal, designed to make Ashley question whether this vindication was worth the cost. She began crafting messages, anonymous at first, then escalating to direct contact. Threats disguised as warnings, predictions of future attacks, psychological warfare designed to make Ashley afraid to be happy, to second-guess every good moment, to wonder when the next assault would come. But she underestimated two things. First, that all communications could be traced eventually, especially with Tully's resources focused on protecting Ashley. And second, that Ashley had grown stronger through every attack, more resilient through every attempt to break her. The messages began arriving the next day. Ashley showed them to Tully immediately, no longer trying to handle threats alone. He turned them over to his security team and his lawyers, adding them to the growing case against the family. They're not going to stop, Ashley said, reading another threatening message. Even after being exposed, even after losing everything, they're still coming after me. Then we keep defending, Tully replied, and we make sure every attack they make costs them more than they're willing to pay. Eventually, even the most persistent abuser runs out of resources and will. What if they never do? Ashley asked. What if this is my life now, constantly waiting for the next attack, the next lie, the next attempt to destroy what we've built? Tully pulled her close, his voice fierce with determination. Then we make our happiness so complete, our life so fulfilling, our connection so unbreakable, that their attacks become irrelevant background noise. We don't let them poison our present by threatening our future. We live well, love completely, and refuse to give them the power to make us afraid. Ashley leaned into his strength, feeling the truth of his words settle into her bones. They'd survived the worst the family could throw at them. They'd emerged with truth on their side, and their relationship stronger than ever. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. But first, There was one more public reckoning to come. One more moment where truth would triumph over lies, where dignity would overcome cruelty, and where Ashley would finally stand fully vindicated before everyone who'd ever doubted her worth. Chapter 9. The public reckoning vindication doesn't whisper apologies. It stands on stage with receipts and lets the truth detonate. The annual summit was the city's premier gathering, where fortunes were discussed, alliances formed, and reputations either solidified or shattered. Paisley and the family attended out of desperate necessity. After the media event revelation, they'd lost significant standing, but not attending would signal complete social death. What they didn't anticipate was Tully and Ashley arriving together. Ashley wore emerald green, a color that made her presence impossible to ignore. The dress was elegant without being ostentatious, powerful without trying to prove anything. Beside Tully, they were magnetic. Heads turned as they entered. Whispers rippled through the crowd, but the tone had shifted. These weren't whispers of scandal. They were whispers of admiration, curiosity, respect. Paisley watched from across the reception hall, her champagne turning bitter. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Ashley should have been destroyed, hiding, certainly not walking into the city's most important event, looking like she belonged there more than anyone else. The first evening passed in strategic navigation. Tully and Ashley moved through the crowd together, and something remarkable happened. People wanted to talk to them, not to gossip about scandal, but to genuinely engage. Business leaders asked Ashley about her community work. Philanthropists wanted to discuss her perspective on effective charity. People saw her not as a scandal, but as someone worth knowing. "This is surreal," Ashley whispered to Tully. "Last week, these same people were sharing that video. Now they're treating me like I'm someone important." "You are someone important," Tully replied. "They're just finally seeing what I saw from the beginning." "And Ashley, watch what happens tomorrow." The second day brought Tully's keynote address. When Tully Shepherd spoke, the business world listened. The ballroom was packed, every seat filled. Tully took the stage with Ashley beside him, and that alone was a statement. "I want to talk about value," Tully began, "about how we determine worth in our society. We claim to value integrity, character, resilience. But when tested, do we actually recognize those qualities? Or do we default to easier measurements, pedigree, connections, how well someone fits our preconceived notions?" The audience was rapt. This wasn't the usual keynote about market trends. This was personal, direct, challenging. "Over the past months, I've witnessed something remarkable," Tully continued. "I've watched someone face systematic attacks designed to destroy her reputation. I've watched lies spread faster than truth, watched people believe the worst based on fabricated evidence, watched a coordinated campaign of cruelty unfold." He gestured to Ashley. "This is Ashley Crudell. Some of you know her story now. Some of you participated in spreading lies about her. Some of you judged her without knowing the truth. The screens behind them lit up with a comprehensive timeline, not just of the recent video scandal, but of years of abuse. Documented harassment from her family, evidence of manipulation spanning back to her childhood, a pattern of systematic undermining that would have broken most people. Ashley was adopted into a family that treated her as a burden, Tully explained, voice tight with controlled anger. She spent her life being told she wasn't enough. And when she dared to build a life anyway, when she dared to find joy, they escalated. More evidence appeared. The fabricated documents, the paid testimonies, the commissioned video, but also something new, statements from people Ashley had helped over the years, students whose lives she'd changed, families she'd supported, community members who'd witnessed her consistent character. "I've built my career on reading people, on identifying value where others see none," Tully said. "And I'm telling every person in this room, Ashley Crudell has more integrity in her silence than most of us demonstrate in a lifetime of words." The room erupted in applause, not polite claps, but genuine, sustained ovation. Journalists scrambled. Phones buzzed as the truth spread at the same viral speed the lies once traveled. Respected leaders lined up to apologize to Ashley, to offer support and collaboration opportunities. Paisley sat at her family's table, trapped in a nightmare of her own creation. Her phone exploded with calls. Sponsors cutting ties with family holdings, social organizations rescinding memberships, colleagues demanding explanations. The carefully constructed family reputation was crumbling in real time. Ashley stood beside Tully, overwhelmed but unbroken, as person after person approached with respect and recognition. She realized the profound truth washing over her. She was free, completely, finally free. The family had no power over her anymore. Their lies were exposed. She'd been publicly vindicated. Tully took her hand as the applause continued. You never needed vindication from them, but now they can never touch you again. That night, at the summit's closing gala, Ashley and Tully danced together under crystal chandeliers, surrounded by people who now saw her truth. The love between them was visible to everyone watching. Not the scandal the family tried to create, but something genuine and profound. In the parking garage afterward, Paisley sat alone in her car, watching the celebration through tear-blurred eyes. Her phone now silent. Everyone important had already cut contact. She had one final option, one last desperate play. But it required something she'd never done before, admitting she was wrong. Chapter 10. The Final Reckoning. Forgiveness is not given lightly. It's earned through genuine remorse, humility, and the acceptance that some bridges, once burned, may never be rebuilt. 3 months had passed since the summit. Ashley and Tully had built something extraordinary from the ashes of attempted destruction. The foundation they'd announced was already operational, already changing lives. Ashley had stepped fully into her role as director, discovering that leading with purpose felt natural. But tonight was different. Tonight was the official launch event, the moment when their partnership would be announced to the world, not as a response to scandal, but as a deliberate choice to build something meaningful together. The venue was elegant, without being pretentious, filled with people who mattered because of their commitment to genuine change. Community leaders stood beside wealthy donors. Former students Ashley had taught mingled with influential philanthropists. This wasn't the usual society gathering. This was a room full of people united by purpose. Ashley stood backstage, adjusting her dress, deep sapphire. She felt nervous. This was about stepping fully into a future she'd never dared dream possible. Ready? Tully appeared beside her, devastatingly handsome. But it was the look in his eyes that made Ashley's breath catch. Pure love, unwavering certainty. I'm terrified, Ashley admitted. What if I'm not good enough for this? Impossible, Tully replied, taking her hands. You've been preparing for this your entire life. Every person you helped, every student you taught. This isn't new. This is just you doing what you've always done, but with resources that match your vision. They walked onto the stage together, and the applause was immediate and genuine. These people were celebrating 2 people who'd survived attempts to destroy them and emerged stronger. Tully spoke first, outlining the Foundation's mission, its structure, the concrete ways it would support marginalized communities. He spoke about seed funding for entrepreneurs, scholarships for students, resources for community development. But more than programs, he spoke about philosophy, about recognizing value where society often overlooks it. Then he turned to Ashley. But I'm not the heart of this foundation. The vision, the purpose, the soul of everything we're building, that comes from someone who's lived the struggles we're trying to address. Ashley took the microphone, hands steadier than she expected. I spent my life feeling invisible, she began. Or worse, visible only as something less than. I was the adopted daughter who never quite belonged. The room was silent, everyone listening. But through all of that, I learned something crucial, Ashley continued. Your worth isn't determined by who acknowledges it. It's determined by who you choose to be when no one's watching, how you treat others when you have nothing to gain. She outlined the Foundation's programs with passion from personal experience. education initiatives, because she knew what it meant to be told learning wasn't for people like her. Entrepreneurship support, because she understood barriers that kept talented people from opportunities. "This foundation isn't charity," Ashley said firmly. "Charity implies giving to those less fortunate from superiority. This is investment, recognizing that untapped potential exists everywhere if we're willing to look beyond traditional markers of worth." The applause was thunderous. People rose to their feet, not out of politeness, but genuine excitement. Ashley felt something settle into place inside her. This was where she belonged, but Tully had one more announcement. As the applause quieted, he took Ashley's hand, and something in his expression made the room hold its breath. "There's one more thing," Tully said, voice softer now, more personal. "Ashley and I have been building this foundation together, but we're also building something equally important, a life together." He turned to face Ashley fully, tears in his eyes, the first time she'd ever witnessed him cry. "You've taught me what real strength looks like, what genuine integrity means, and I don't want to spend another day without making it absolutely clear that you're not just my partner in this foundation. You're my partner in everything." From his pocket, he withdrew a small box. The room erupted in gasps. Ashley's hands flew to her mouth, tears streaming because she hadn't expected this. "Ashley Crudell," Tully said, dropping to one knee, "you are the most extraordinary person I've ever met. Will you marry me? Will you build this life with me? Not as someone I'm protecting, but as my absolute equal in every way that matters." "Yes," Ashley whispered, then louder, "Yes! Of course, yes!" The room exploded with celebration as Tully slid the ring onto her finger. They kissed amid cheers and applause, and Ashley felt something she'd never experienced before: complete, absolute, unconditional belonging. As the evening progressed, people approached to congratulate them, to share how Ashley's work had impacted them, how seeing her strength inspired them. This wasn't just a celebration of a proposal, it was a celebration of transformation. Late in the evening, Ashley noticed a group standing hesitantly near the back. Her heart stopped when she recognized them. The family. They approached slowly, and Tully moved closer to Ashley, protective but trusting her to handle this. "We weren't sure if we should come," Paisley said quietly, her usual confidence completely absent. "But we needed to see this, needed to witness what you've built." Delphine stepped forward, eyes red from crying. "Ashley, we won't take your time. We just wanted you to know. We've spent these months trying to become different people. Not to earn your forgiveness, but because we finally understand how wrong we were. We've been volunteering," another family member added, "at shelters, community centers, places where people need help rather than judgment. Trying to understand what you've always known, that everyone deserves dignity. We can never undo what we did," Paisley continued, voice breaking. "But we're trying to learn from it. You were right about everything." Ashley looked at them. These people who'd made her life miserable, who'd tried to destroy her happiness. And she felt not anger, but something like pity mixed with hope. "I appreciate you sharing that," Ashley said carefully. "And I genuinely hope you continue on this path. But my forgiveness from before still stands. It's for my peace, not your absolution. You're not part of my life. Maybe someday that changes, but it would take years of consistent change." "We understand," Delphine said, nodding. "We're not asking for anything. We just wanted you to see that your strength, your grace, it taught us what real integrity looks like." They left quietly, and Ashley turned to Tully. "They're different, genuinely different. Do you want them back in your life eventually?" Tully asked, no judgment in his tone. "I don't know," Ashley admitted. "Maybe, but it doesn't matter right now. Right now I have everything I need. Meaningful work, genuine purpose, and you." Tully pulled her close, and they swayed together to the music. Around them, their community celebrated, the family she'd chosen and built. "I love you," Tully murmured. "I love everything about who you are and who we're becoming together." "I love you too," Ashley replied. "Thank you for seeing me, for believing in me, for fighting for us. There's nowhere else I'd rather be." Tully said simply. "You're not just my partner, you're my home." As the evening ended, Ashley took one last look at the room full of people who'd gathered to celebrate purpose over pretense, character over connections. This was her world now, not the one she'd been born into, but the one she'd built through resilience and integrity. Their love story, forged in humiliation and tempered by trials, had become something unbreakable, a testament that dignity, truth, and genuine connection would always triumph over cruelty, lies, and superficial power. And as they walked out together into the night, hands intertwined, futures merged, Ashley realized the greatest revenge against those who tried to break her was simply this: being happy, being successful, being loved, and being utterly, impossibly free.